Hello everyone, just waiting, gonna wait for a little bit before I begin on anything. As you can see, I have things hanging in the backyard for comfort. Hey Miranda, I see you. Okay. We got birds joining us today. We got people. We got topics to talk about. We got Miranda giving me lots of love. We have Maria joining us. Hey Maria, how's it going? So good to see you. Such a dedicated viewer, which is awesome. I'm going to begin in just another minute, I'm sure. Hey Diana. Nice to see you on here. You'll be coming to Orange County, aren't you? Very soon. To see Miss Davies. Looking forward to that. Just make sure to pay the registration before the 15th of April. Just to make sure you get in there, because we are capping the class. But yeah. Hi, lovely Mandy. So good to see you. Thank you for watching. So lovely to see you. Great. That's awesome, Diana. Okie dokie, my lovelies. Since, everyone's starting to come in, I suppose I shall begin talking. So thank you for tuning in today and checking out my live. I'm very excited to have you watching it. Each week I'm planning on talking about something different. Last week I talked extensively about the power, which I will always talk extensively about the power, given the fact that the power is probably the most vital and important part of mediumship. Diane, hi Diane, so good to see you. Lisa, hello. Welcome. I'm so glad you're checking in here today. So it's so lovely to have all of you here. Feel free to participate in the comments throughout. I'll do my best to answer any questions and things that come up as we go along. But what I really wanted to talk about today is the topic of feeling like you can't connect to the other world. And I feel like that's super important. Oh, by the way, can someone keep an eye on time? Because last time I went so long, and unfortunately, it took me to the point of where I was almost late for my next thing. So if someone can just let me know when we're like at 30 minutes or something like that, that would be very helpful. Just so that I can begin to wrap it up. So Miranda, I'm looking at you because I have a feeling you'll be here the whole time. Anyway, so I want to talk about the feeling of not being able to connect. So I know that I myself, throughout my journey and throughout what I've done, have definitely had times where that's the case. And what I want to definitely mention about that process is that it's something that very, very much happens within one's journey, within one's mediumship, within, several different times in your work. And this is because mediumship is ultimately coming from you. So it's going to be largely dependent on where your mental state is, where you're at, if there's stressors going on in your life, that's largely what it is. So one of the first things I would do is check in with myself. Okay, what is it that is going on with me that's making me feel as though I'm not connecting for some reason? What I see, especially with a lot of students, because a lot of students will come in and be like, I'm just not feeling it today. I'm just here. I just want to sit in the power, and then that's really it. And really that oftentimes comes from the sense of, so this is stress in our lives. It comes from the sense of our Lack of confidence, that's another thing that happens. So whenever this is, whenever you are feeling that way, try to identify what's going on in my life right now, okay? And see if there's anything you can do about that to try to help, relieve whatever that issue is, because it's definitely going to help you. Obviously, sitting in the power is going to be another one. And I find that this is another reason why people oftentimes feel like they're having lack of connection. I like to think of the mediumship work that we do and our spiritual connection as a bit of a muscle. Hi, Devin in Texas. Hi, Johnny. Good to see you. I like to think of it as a muscle. So I noticed that whenever I don't work and I don't, move into that awareness very often, I start to feel a little bit like, is this thing on? Hello? Can you guys hear me? Not you guys, but the spirit world. And that's how it ends up feeling for me. So I know every time that I come back from one of my trips, because for those of you who know me, I travel a lot all over the world to study, to teach, to do all kinds of things. And I'll go for a month, and when I'm traveling for fun, and when I come back, I'm like, I need a week to even just get back into the normal groove, because when I'm traveling and doing all that sort of thing, I'm not sitting in the power regularly. I'm, doing all kinds of things. So I noticed that there's a huge difference in my mediumship, in my work, and it takes a little bit of me just regularly sitting, moving back into the power, that I am then able to connect again, because it's very much a muscle, and you have to continuously work with it if you want it to be an easy transition from one state of awareness to the next. So I like to call that, my psychic flexibility. Am I able to move my awareness into this other space with ease, or does it feel like it's a little bit like I'm grasping, a little bit for something to come? Very much what I think helps with this is the practice of stilling and quieting the mind, obviously, because we come back to what the power teaches us, what it works with us. And so if you're feeling that way, if you're feeling like, I don't feel that connected, I definitely want to give you a couple of things. So number one, I want you to be sitting in the power. Sitting in the power, I'm a broken record. I will tell you this forever. Everyone who is a student of mine knows that literally all I talk about is the power. And I have to say it 6,000 different ways so that each person can get it. And it's always interesting and funny to me that when someone finally does get it, they're like, oh, I see what you mean. I see why that's important. I can experience it. I understand how that works now. And they may have been working with me for quite some time, but finally they get it. And that's what's important to me, is that they will, understand how to work with that. So definitely sit in the power. The second thing, I would say, definitely check in with yourself. What's blocking me? What's making me feel insecure? What's making me feel lack of confidence? Lack of confidence is such a big thing. Whenever you are working with your mediumship and all of that, it's so important as you're entering into the work that you come into it with confidence. And even if you have to just fake your confidence till you make the confidence, then just do it, because believing in ourselves, because mediumship is so much coming from the medium, we're the ones that provide our own spiritual energy and power. There's a huge difference between when you come into a communication with confidence versus lack of confidence. Just think about it yourself. Whenever you are working or doing anything, think about anything, and you go into it with lack of confidence, you have hesitation, you have doubt, you have all of this stuff, and what does that create within you? It creates tension. And whenever we have tension in us, it limits and inhibits our mediumistic connection, our psychic connection, because tension is the antithesis of mediumship. Mediumship is meant to be free. It's meant to be relaxed. The more free and open and relaxed, the better. I'm sure many of you can relate to the idea or the experience when you're just sort of in that daydreamy sort of thing, and then all of a sudden someone floats through your awareness, and then they call you. Or all of a sudden someone floats through your awareness and they're like, I was just thinking about you, or I was just texting you, or there's some sort of connection that happens when we are in that relaxed and open state. So it's super important that whenever you enter any kind of mediumistic work, you do whatever it takes to get yourself in line, to get yourself in that space of calm, in that space of relaxed, in that space of confidence, it makes a world of difference in your work. What is happening when we have lack of confidence? We have fear. That's basically what it comes down to. Lack of confidence is fear of not doing well, fear of not being good enough, fear of not getting anything. And what that does is, again, inhibits our flow, inhibits our ability to feel and experience the other world. So what's the antidote to that? One, telling yourself, whatever you need to tell yourself, that I am connected, I can do this, I know I can do this. The other thing is feeling what it feels like if you were actually doing what you're hoping to do. The other thing is letting go of any desire for the outcome. Just treating each experience as, I'm just moving into this awareness. I'm just going to allow myself to just experience whatever it is. And you know what? Whatever happens, happens. It's letting go of that expectation that we have to do or be or create, make something happen. Hi, Cody. So glad you were able to find me through the podcast. That's amazing. And hi, Kathleen. So nice for you to join us. So we're just talking about confidence and how to really make our mediumistic awareness work when we feel like it's not. So obviously we said sitting in the power. We also said developing that confidence, that ability to go forward and treat it, and knowing that you can do this. I know I already began to talk about allowing yourself to relax into the experience of everything rather than saying that it needs to look and be a certain way. The moment we put expectations or desires onto the other world, onto ourselves, we really start to become afraid, basically. Become afraid that we're not going to get it, we're not going to do a good job, we're not going to get the detail. So I know for myself, really one of the most important things for me has been to let go of judging myself. And that's something that I think we all do, right? I'm sure we can all agree and understand that, we judge ourselves a lot. And in my mediumship, in the mediumistic world, hi Sarah, hi Tanya, so good to see you. In the mediumistic world, it's so easy for us to judge ourselves, to compare. And actually, I went to the In Spirit service today, because I had to do an announcement there, and got to watch Reverend Sandy talk, and she talked about comparing ourselves, and I totally agreed with what she was saying, that comparing kills. And so it's absolutely when we compare ourselves to other people, when we compare ourselves to other mediums, maybe people who we consider better than us, all that's doing is just beating down our confidence. And I can't tell you how many students of mine I've had where they'll come to class and they'll look at someone who's been working at it for quite some time, or maybe even they've themselves been working at it longer, and yet they see, oh, this person for some reason is doing better than me. That is going to get you every time. If you go down that little rabbit hole of thinking that you can't do it, that you're not good enough, all that's going to do is send you into blocking yourself. That's all it's going to do. And you're going to continue down that sort of thing. So another thing Reverend Sandy said today, which I loved, is that the only people we have to compare ourselves to is our past selves. That's it. Where are we going? How are we changing? How are we evolving? How are we growing? And I really, really feel strongly that's such an important part of mediumship. And I even still do it today. I mean, the other day I was talking to Eileen, and I mentioned something where I was like, well, I did this reading, and that one was really great, and then this one was not that great, and I was just like, and kind of getting into my head about it. And she stopped me right there, and she was like, you have nothing to be comparing yourself to. That mediumship is something that's going to be an ebb and a flow, and there's going to be times when it's going to be very, very strong and very, very good, but there's no reason to ever compare and critique the work that you do. If you are working in the power, if you are working with what is coming to you in the moment, you will then allow yourself to just give what's coming to you, and you can't control what that is. So mediumship isn't coming through us, or rather coming from us, it's coming through us, and therefore We have to really let ourselves and forgive ourselves if we feel like something's not working as well as it does in other times. That's the thing about working with, a client basis in the one-on-one sort of, situations. When you're working in that way, you really are dealing with someone who could be in grief, someone who could be in the midst of something very, very challenging and trying in their lives. And they come to you, and you are having in some way to work in and around all of that energy and that power that's around them as you're working with them. And so I know for myself, I have found that when, someone is particularly in grief, and like in the midst of it, like a fresh new person, someone that they really love and care about passes on, and they come to you in the middle of grief, that it's actually can oftentimes be really, really challenging. And I know that Silver Birch mentioned that there's a cloud that is around those who are in the midst of that grief. And I can't tell you how accurate that experience is, because I know when I have someone that's in the middle of grief, it's almost as if you're trying to penetrate some kind of layer so that you can get to the person inside so they can actually hear what's going on. But think about the times when you've been distraught, when you have been, really just whatever strong emotion is happening. It's hard for you to really hear and experience what is being given to you, because until that strong emotion subsides, you're not able to really receive what is being offered. So we can't really go around judging ourselves on how one reading went versus another, because there's so many factors involved in a sitting, whether that's mediumship or psychic. And so I just want to give you that so that you can give yourself a little bit of credit and not put such a hard and fast thing of either I do an amazing job or I don't. Because I don't know about you guys. I don't know how many of you who are watching are perfectionists. I know I can be a perfectionist, particularly with my work, because I don't want to do this, and I'm sure many of you are going to feel this the same way. I don't want to do this unless it's real. I don't want to do this unless it's helping people, unless it's clear and specific, accurate information. I remember saying that to the other world one day. I don't remember when it was, but many years ago. And I said, look, I'll work for you. I'll do whatever it takes. But I'll commit everything, but I need this to be clear, accurate, and specific. I don't want to be doing some sort of, clairvoyage, as Eileen calls it, and cold reading or things like that. Like, that's not what I'm about. Like, I want clear, specific, accurate information. That was a prayer and an intent that I put out many years ago. And I have to say, the other world has led me to those who could teach me and show me the way to become clear, specific, and accurate. So basically, the long story short, what I'm trying to convey here is the sense that you really can't be judging yourself on any of this. This is just something that you do, and you give what you get in the moment. For some people, that's going to be a lot. For some people, that's going to be a little. But what the important part is that through your developing, through your working with the power, working with spirit, working with yourself, and understanding yourself and how your power relates to the other world, you will then discover and know that all you can do is trust the moment. All you can do is trust and be in the present. So really what I say to a lot of my students when they're about to work is, just give what's coming to you. Describe your experience. That's all you have to do. Let go of the desire to get a name. Let go of the desire to get, specifics. Let go of this kind of thing, because it's only going to cause you to put pressure on yourself. That's what you have to do. The more that you connect to your spiritual nature, your own individual spiritual nature, the more that you connect to that, you can then relate to the power. The more you connect to the power, all the information that you need is going to be there. Eileen always says, your trust is the gift that you give to the other world. I'll say it again. Your trust is the gift that you give to the other world. And I know that so many people come to me and they say, oh, no, I trust in the other world. It's me that I have the doubts about, right? I mean, how many of us say that? So many, right? And I know I used to say that a lot. But what happens is the more that you develop your understanding of your own spiritual nature and your understanding of the power, the more that you can trust yourself, because you'll see that you're going to be more accurate, you're going to be more correct with the information that you're getting. And then the more trust that you have, it builds your confidence in turn, doesn't it? So the more confidence that you have, it all helps each other. So I always am going to come back to this. Mediumship isn't about tricks. It isn't about trying to get certain informations. Mediumship is about your spiritual nature, understanding your spiritual nature and how that relates to the power to the other world. That's the key with mediumship if you want clear, specific, accurate information. It's not about tricks. It's not about any sort of thing that people can tell you. It's just about understanding your own spiritual nature. So I'm just going to say, I hope that makes sense. Please feel free to ask me any questions about what you're wondering about. I'm just going to have a look here. Confidence is my biggest stump, says Miranda. Whenever I go through a period where my mediumship is at a standstill, my confidence goes way down, and I think now I suck and I don't have the ability. I know. I feel that same way. If I don't do work for some time, it's like this weird little fear inside that somehow it's all going to stop working. And obviously that's my own sort of like inner doubt and that sort of thing, or my own little saboteur that lives within, and I'm sure we all have that somewhere in us. But then you just have to do the practice, and I think that's the importance of doing the practice of sitting in the power. That is your gateway. That is your, standing in that power and being in the stillness. That is what reconnects you to that source. The only thing that's making you feel like you're not connected is the fact that you aren't used to it. Your brain has gone back to normal, localized consciousness that lives right here. So the more that you can allow yourself to develop that stillness, you're allowing your awareness to move back up into that higher space in your mind. And that's so incredibly important. One of the most amazing mediums of our past, Eileen Garrett, who I reference all the time because she had such a great understanding of her mediumship, when asked about it, she thinks of it as moving. She says her awareness moves away from this localized consciousness here and moves into what she calls the super consciousness. And in this space, there is no time, there is no place, there is just everything all at once. And it's because of her moving into that space, she is able then to know things about the future, know things about the past, know things about the present, and then also being sensitive to the energies around you. When our brain is too focused within this place here, within our physical form, our brain is not designed for that. So we need to teach our awareness to move outside of that so that we can then become aware of the more subtle energies and vibrations that are there. Okay? Hope that's helpful. Let me just see here. Hi, Timothy. It was lovely speaking to you, I believe, yesterday. I never know because my sense of time and space is never right, but anyway. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Nicole. Let's see what you have to say. What's your approach/response when working with a client who expects you to bring through a specific spirit, but you do not connect with that specific spirit? That's a fabulous question. Thank you for asking that, Nicole. So one of the things I think is super important that I think a lot of people forget about when they're working with the public is that remember that you're the one that's in control of your sitting. This is the way that you're working, and what's important is that you're the most comfortable, that you are the one that is setting the parameters, that's setting the guidelines, and it's super important for you to make super clear to your client how it is that you work. What is it that you expect from the sitter? How do you expect them to respond to you? How do you expect them to behave throughout the sitting? What you need them to do so that this will work the best, because you know how you work. So developing the ability to make some sort of intro or something. I know I start to talk about my intro and it starts to move me into the other awareness very quickly. If you tell them what you expect from them, and also in that little intro, you tell them, there is no guarantee on who's going to come through. I can only give you, what I'm experiencing, and that's it. What I would tell them, especially in that introduction, because once you've started, that's a little bit tricky. But before you start, if you give them how you work, if you set them up and tell them, look, there is no guarantee you're going to connect with who you want to connect to, but if you offer to them before you come, they usually do. The other thing I always say to people is it may not be the first person that comes through may not be the person you're hoping to get. It may be someone else. Particularly, I know that whenever I do a reading and someone tells me who they want to speak to because they just kind of blurted it out, it's oftentimes that's not the first person that's going to come through. It's usually going to be someone else, and then that person comes through. I don't know if that's more for me or more for the sitter, but I feel that happens because it does something to the energy. It does something to where there's an openness, because oftentimes when people come to a sitting, they can be nervous, especially if they've never had it before. So they don't know what to expect, which is why that sort of opening conversation is so important. So that's what I would say. You have to tell them ahead of time. Once you're in the reading, you just have to give them what you get. There's nothing that you can do other than that. So that's what you have to do. The thing with it is we don't really have control. Just make sure that you're continuing your development, because the development never stops. So if you continue development, I'm sure that the other world, and one of the things is just trusting the experience. If we try to control the experience in any way, that's oftentimes when we're not going to get the information that may be needed. Okay, that's why it's so important to trust and understand the power, because the power will tell you what is needed for your recipient. So I hope that answers your question. Basically, my advice would be, before you have the reading, have that conversation with your person. Hi, Clarissa. I'm glad you were able to pop in and catch me. Hi, Valin. Hey, Jessica. I don't know if you're still watching, but hello. How long have I been reading? So I've been in my spiritual development since I was 18. I was told, you're a medium, you need to start developing. So that's when I began doing that. So, you start off doing readings in classes and things like that. So, since I was 19, I think is when that started, because it was just before my 19th birthday that I was told this. So technically then, how long I've been doing that professionally, that's hard to say. I would say full on, out there in the world, this is what I'm doing, maybe 5 years, maybe. Something like that. But as far as my own development, that was a much longer process, because I always wanted to make sure I was ready before I actually was out there, charging people and doing that sort of thing, because I think that that's super important. Lisa says, I'm paralyzed practicing in mediumship circles, not wanting to go to the gym because I'm not, okay. So you have to do it. I mean, you just have to do it, because there's no way that you're going to get comfortable with it unless you are trying to do it. You have to get out of your own way and just force yourself to be there, and just keep trying. I mean, just keep going until it's not uncomfortable anymore, and that's really all you can do. I mean, I know for myself, getting up on platform, that was never something that was necessarily easy for me, but I had to keep going because I knew that platform was something that I wanted to do at some point. But what I think oftentimes where that sense of fear comes from is because we need to continue to develop our own awareness of spirit first. So really sitting in the power, Lisa, is what I would recommend, because sitting in the power is going to help you to become sensitive to the atmosphere around you, because people's lack of confidence comes from their lack of clarity in the messages that they're receiving, I think. And so really developing, particularly, sorry, I got a phone call. Practicing under a developed medium, that's really going to help you. Sitting in the power with a developed medium, because there's always an exchange of power that occurs whenever a more developed medium sits with someone who is less developed. So that's fabulous. Thank you, Maria, for telling me the time. I appreciate it. So that's super helpful. So you just have to kind of go, and you just have to just get out of your comfort zone and keep going until you are comfortable. But what I will tell you is always developing the feeling first, being able to feel the presence of spirit, being able to feel. And the reason why you need to work under a developed medium is because it is because they'll be able to tell you if that is your mind or if that isn't your mind. And that's super, super important. Thank you for telling me, everyone. You guys are so sweet and cute. I love you all for telling me. Okay, tell me when it's... Okay, what time is my next thing? My next thing is at 3. Okay, so I still have plenty of time. But just tell me when I get to Give me 15 more minutes. You guys are awesome for letting me know. Okay, so any suggestions? This is Carissa. Any suggestions for a mom dealing with a teen who has the ability to connect with spirit but seems embarrassed and a bit scared of his gift? Yes, absolutely. So one of the things is, I don't necessarily know that a teen oh, you're welcome, Lisa. Absolutely, my pleasure. One of the things is, I think teenagers in particular really need to have that time to be a teenager, and it's okay for them to have an awareness, but I don't necessarily know that that's the time to start developing them. I would say you want to wait until they are like 18-ish, because what unfortunately happens, and I've seen this with people and also through my teachers in their experience with this exact thing, is you want to encourage them to trust that, but you really want to not necessarily have them sitting for development just yet, like in a circle, because what can tend to happen is here's what I would say. This is what I think. People oftentimes, especially at that age, are looking to identify with something. And what can tend to happen is that they then tend to overly identify with their mediumship. It's so important for a medium to be well-rounded, to not just have this be their everything and all. Yes, it can be extremely important. That can be a core part of who you are. But I think it's so important, particularly around the teenage years, for that person to be developed as a person, as a spiritual person, in the sense of understanding who they are, loving themselves first, getting a lot of that kind of excess garbage kind of put out of the way first before they begin their development as a medium. What you can do with them is begin to teach them how to meditate, begin to teach them how to kind of still and quiet the mind, connect with the breath, letting go of their own thoughts. Doing that sort of thing, I think, is so much more important for someone, especially in their teenage years, than anything else. If there's fear, then largely that's going to be fear around what they're capable of, perhaps certain belief systems around, so that's something that would need to be explored. What that person can often do is talk to someone who does understand mediumship and their psychic gifts, but what I would really encourage them is to let them be kids first. I don't think that they need to be developing at 16. I think that they can begin to explore this world, teaching them about meditation and that sort of thing. But I wouldn't rush their development into, necessarily mediumship. Let them kind of be kids first, because it's a lot of responsibility that we put on, that goes with being a medium, that goes with being out there. And I know that Gordon Higginson had started doing platform or something when he was 11 or 12. And, Gordon Higginson is a very unique, situation. So I feel that, let kids be kids first, and then, we'll work with that later. But do let them know that there's nothing to fear, that trusting and developing that gift is going to happen in their own time. If they are interested in, let them begin to meditate, let them learn how to calm their mind, let them to learn the practice of controlling their own awareness and trusting their own sort of, how to still and quiet and calm the mind, because there's so much things going on. And when, with my psych degree, when kids are in that time period, their brains are developing, they're not even at a place where things are normal yet for their brain and internally, which is why we always think teenagers are insane. And that's because they are. Their poor brains and their hormones and everything are doing all kinds of things. So, just be patient with that, and just encourage them that there's nothing to be concerned about. So hopefully that answers your question, Carissa. Any other thoughts? Any other questions? Hi, Jennifer. I don't know if Bill is still watching. Who is still watching? I'm going to click this little button here. Anywho. Okay, let's see. Yay, good. I'm glad you liked that, Carissa. Okay. Jamie. Let's see. Hi, Jamie. My fiancé is hearing and seeing spirit that I know that have passed. At first, he was anxious about it. Now he has found peace in it. How do you know if someone actually has a gift, or if it's psychosis or something else? He feels that he's going crazy and thinks that people are all around. Right. So that's super important. That's such a fabulous question. Thank you for asking that. So that is something that we have to be aware of, right? What often happens, particularly when people don't have guidance about everything and they're not being taught how to turn those sort of things on and off, it can become very overwhelming. There are so many mediums, and in their development, that they felt like they were crazy at first because they were having these experiences that they couldn't shut off, that they couldn't, they didn't know how to do all of this, didn't know how to control it. And so that can be very scary and unnerving for some people, because you have your natural mediums, which need to learn how to turn it off, and you have those developing mediums, or the ones that need to be developed, are the ones that are trying to reach up. So in this case, it sounds like there can possibly be the natural mediumship there. So what I would say is, obviously, first make sure that there's not any substances that are creating these voices and sounds and things. So if there's a lot of alcohol or a lot of pot and things like that, obviously other things as well, that can sometimes have some level of hallucinogenic quality. As long as that's not there, then we can look at it and see, okay, is there something else going on? I would look at the age of the individual. Is there a history in the family of any kind of mental illness with regards to hearing or seeing, or all of those sort of things, schizophrenia, anything like that? I do all that first. Make sure that's all checks out. If that all checks out, then what he needs to do is learn and understand the gift and learn how to develop that gift, because that's going to make things a lot easier. The other thing is a belief system. We have to kind of help him figure out what the proper, I don't want to say proper belief system, but something like that. Something that is a working belief system that he can then understand. I have total control over this. I have power to turn this on and turn this off. I have the power to develop this. So that's what I would say. So, you'd have to check all those boxes first, and then he has to develop under a developed medium. But this has to be someone, like, what do I mean when I say developed medium? I mean someone who's been working for years and years and years and years and years. I did not start teaching until I was 10 years into my development. And I think that is key, and that is so important. You need to have be developed under someone who understands the journey, right? Not just, a couple years, not just taken a couple of classes. You need to have someone who's understood the journey of what that is, because there's ebbs and flows, there's seasons to your development, and that's so important. The other thing is, always look at the work of that medium, and that is the way that you can tell, is this someone who understands this, or is this someone who is kind of moving through the motions? I've been so lucky to have been led and also searched for what I consider some of the best mediums in the world. Eileen Davies, Gordon Smith. Like, I've been so incredibly blessed to have studied under there. So Jamie, what I would recommend too is Gordon Smith has plenty of books on this topic, on understanding it. One of the books I would recommend is The Unbelievable Truth. That's a fabulous book about just the basics of the spirit world. I think that will help. The other thing, another book is The Intuitive Studies by Gordon Smith, is a fabulous book that takes someone through sort of the journey and understanding how development works. But ultimately, the best thing for him is to be in a development circle of some kind. Let him know that he can turn it on and off, that if he focuses on this place, this time, that's what he needs to do if he wants to not have it on. And then it's through learning to still and quiet the mind, because my sense is too that once we start to get a little bit of fear into this whole thing, that because if it's happening all the time, he just needs to learn to go, okay, I'm not going to be experiencing that. It's just a movement of your awareness. Your awareness moves into this other space. Oftentimes when we start to experience this kind of thing, we get so excited, and so that we allow our awareness to stay open all the time. We're the ones in control of that. So that's something he needs to kind of like take on board and decide, okay, I'm going to just put that aside, and then create a time and place where he is going to be open to that. So maybe make an hour a day or something, or whenever a week, that he's like, okay, I am going to be open to this, but it's about turning it on and turning it off. That's the only way we're going to discern whether these are thoughts and things in his mind, or if this is actual spirit. Because spirit isn't just going to hang around constantly. It's going to hang around, or you're going to notice it when you're sort of in this passive, daydreamy sort of state. So I hope that was helpful, Jamie. Michael, how do you stay confident during times when your abilities ebb and flow? Identify what may be causing the ebb or flow. If it's stress and that sort of thing, then you just have to be and deal with those stressors. If it is, something to do with your own development, that happens too. There are seasons. I often find that right after a really focused time period of working with my mediumship, like maybe I spent a week at the college or something like that, it starts to just, it takes an integration time period. So just having that understanding that there's times of integration and then there's times where it's done, that's going to make all the difference, I think. So just accepting of that, I think, is going to be key. And acceptance in general, this is just where I'm at right now. But if you're checking the box, in the sense that you're sitting in the power, you're doing a practice that works for you, that keeps you connected to the other world, and then you still feel that ebb and that flow, what I would just recommend is just accepting it for what it is and work with the time that you have. So much of the time we ourselves are trying to control the way that things need to look or unfold and that sort of thing. And just know that your mediumship development is an unfoldment. There's going to be times of peaks and valleys, and you just have to learn to go with it. So just accept it. Just accept it when you feel that it's on a lower flow. Just go, okay, this is where I'm at, and I'm just going to do what I can to continue to stay connected as much as I can. It's just acceptance, okay? Because it will change, and that's the other thing, is to know it will change again. Okay, so I'm pretty sure I am at time of where I have to go. However, I just want to say thank you to everyone who asked questions, everyone who joined me today. It's such a lovely conversation and getting to talk to you. Please feel free to leave any other questions or comments that you have, and I'll do my best to answer them when I have a moment. I'm constantly running from one thing to the next. But, I try my best to be as on it as I can. If I forget, which I'm known to forget, please reach out to me, because that happens. Again, Eileen is coming. It's sort of like winter is coming, but it's Eileen Davies is coming. Except if winter was a good thing, and in this case it is, so maybe I should call it summer. I don't know. But the point is, Eileen is coming, and she's going to be here, and you should try to see her. We're going to be in Louisiana first, from the 17th to the 23rd, and then we're going to be here in Orange County the 17th to the 23rd to the 30th. And so I hope you can join for one of the things. If you can't, you can't. Maybe we'll do a Facebook Live with Eileen. What a good idea. I just had that idea right now. That's a fabulous idea. That's probably what we're going to do. And it's going to be fun, so you better tune into that one. We're going to find a moment to do that. Maybe at the same time. I have no idea, but we're going to find out together. Check my website for up-to-date, events and things up through April. Does Eileen Davies have a book where you said she goes from consciousness to superconscious? Eileen Garrett. Yes, Eileen Garrett. She does. She talks about that. She has several books. I know that at the Arthur Findlay College they publish some of her stuff, and they have like a compilation of her books. I know Awareness is a really good book. If you're kind of into like the philosophy sort of thing of how spirit works, I would definitely check out Eileen Garrett. Awareness, that's a great one. Any one of her biographies or her journeys of the psychic mind, I don't actually know. I'm so sorry. I'll look and see what the names of all the titles are, and I'll post them there, but I know you can also Google it. So check that out, because I think that will be helpful. So, yes. But anyway, Eileen Davies is coming. I can't wait for you to experience her if you get that chance. And I think that's it. So much love to all of you who tuned in and watched and stuck through this whole thing. Hi, Lynn. Thank you to Timothy, Lisa, Diana, everyone. Thank you so much. So I really hoped that, you can always rewatch this for some of the helpful tips that are there. You're so welcome, Carissa. And please, share with your friends, like my Facebook page so that you know when I'm doing these kinds of things and keep up to date. I'm so happy to get to share all this information with you, because for me, the most thing that's important to me is teaching and educating and helping people deepen their own connection to the other world, because that's what I spent many years looking for, and I found it. So, and I hope that deepens and grows forever. Lots of love to all of you, and I hope you have a blessed day.